A new Siena poll shows voters aren't sure if America's political divisions can be overcome. Let's take a look. The September survey asked just over 1,300 voters what they think of America's political system. 64% said they believe the country is too politically divided to solve its problems. Only a third said they believe the country can still address its problems. Compare that to just 5 years ago in September of 2020, most still thought problems could be addressed. Keep in mind this was during the height of the pandemic and the summer of Black Lives Matter protests following the death of George Floyd. 51% said yes, problems could still be addressed, while just 42% said no.
So what's the reason behind the stark rise in pessimism? Well, it may have something to do with voters' top issues. You may remember during last year's election season, the economy and immigration were consistently listed as the top issues for voters. And while the economy is still the top issue, the level of polarization and division in the country has taken the number 2 spot, double what it was 2 years ago.
The good news is that polarization may feel worse than it actually is. When Democrats and left-leaning independents were asked if they viewed Republicans as the enemy or simply fellow Americans with whom they disagree, an overwhelming majority, 84%, said they see Republicans as fellow Americans. Only 10% said the enemy.
It's a similar story on the right. When asked the same question of Democrats, 82% of Republicans and Republican-leaning independents said they view Democrats as fellow Americans. 14% of Republicans identify Democrats as the enemy.
Well, President Trump is probably one of those Republicans, since he said at Charlie Kirk's funeral, "I hate my enemies." I'm assuming he was talking about most Democrats that he argues with all the time, but I guess that's up
probably
for interpretation.
The ones who tried to put him in jail.
Probably, so maybe they're irreconcilable. Every time I see polls like this, I get concerned because I know that social media exaggerates what you think the whole world is feeling. And to bring it back to the U.S., what you think America's feeling. And sometimes, there are millions of people who are not active on social media, don't share their thoughts or ideas on social media, and kind of sometimes social media can show the worst of us. And so you think, oh my God, we're so divided, we can have nothing in common. I don't think right now is the worst of times. I mean, the country has been through civil war. Country has been through the Great Depression, right? The country has been through slavery. Like, this is not the worst of times. And when I sit here and have dialogue with like yourself and Robbie, I think that that is a beautiful thing, because for me, part of having conversation and what people need to see more of is the fact that you can disagree. You can disagree vehemently. You can even argue, but you have to level it in respect for one another. You have to level the conversation in actually trying to get somewhere. And even when you're wrong, think about that, learn something from someone else, have dialogue. I don't think that we should be in a state, because I felt like during the pandemic, actually, that was the worst time. Like, I would go to Thanksgiving and one person would have a different perspective and tensions were so high. We just said, I remember the conversation, do not talk politics at Thanksgiving. Like, it was a point, I think 2020 pandemic, already tensions were high. We couldn't even see each other. But once we really got out of the pandemic, it was like we just got a chance to breathe. There are a lot of different conversations that we were avoiding. But I think now, and even then, having a grandmother who passed away 2 years ago at 106, she's lived through some pretty bad times. And she and I had direct conversation because she was lucky enough to have her cognitive abilities until she passed. And I know that we all can have more conversations and do better. And this is certainly not the worst it's going to be.
Yeah. And I think to underscore that point, that's why the assassination of Charlie Kirk hit so hard for so many, because he was living that out in his daily life, right? Having conversations with the other side. And obviously people have raised issues they disagreed with him on, or they didn't like his tone in some circumstances, but he was trying to bridge that gap. Yes, he was trying to convince people to adopt conservative values, but he was actively listening to people who had very different opinions than him. And ultimately he was killed for it. And it's like, well, what does that mean for the future of dialogue in this country if someone who very much was a free speech, open dialogue champion loses their life for trying to exercise that freedom and that ability? And that's one of the things that lingers for me as is very deeply concerning for the future of our country.
So do you feel like you agree with the poll that we're pretty much at a point of no return between?
I don't know that we're at no return, but I do feel that the division is very palpable. And I was listening to the interview between Ezra Klein and Ta-Nehisi Coates the other day. Mm-hmm. And when they were talking about this divide, they basically said that they viewed Republicans as having gone so far over the line. And I thought it really lacked self-awareness. to not acknowledge, I think, how far left they've shifted the Overton window at the same time, and is one of the reasons why we're having this issue.
Yeah, we'll keep talking about this a lot more. That does it for us on Rising Live. Look out for more exclusive content on our YouTube coming your way today. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the Hill's YouTube channel so you don't miss any content. And listen to us wherever you listen to your podcast while on the go. We're available. We'll see you next week.